You are listening to another episode of the Yorts Resilience podcast, and I am your host, Emma Ward, a counsellor and life coach from Positive Outlooks. This podcast is inspired by the feeling that I get on a weekly basis from working with clients and being in awe of their stories of resilience. Over time, I've felt drawn to share these stories on this platform, and I hope these stories provide you with the motivation to conquer the challenges within your own life. To listen to more episodes, visit positiveoutlooks.com.au or subscribe on iTunes. Hello and welcome to episode 28 with Gabby Rigney to the podcast. Gabby was a born city girl, was wooed to the country by her Moonta-born and raised partner Tom Ferguson. Wooed. Gabby's partner Tom is a well-known Moonta personality. He has been a talented footballer, playing in the famous winning Moonta Football Club Premiership in 2005 at around age 16, I've been informed. Breaking Moonta's premiership drought, which I'm not sure whether you know, Gabby, I think it was like 50 years.
Yeah, I'm sure I've been told.
I wasn't going to put you on pressure to ask the number. I've also been told he also played in a couple of losing Moonta A-grade premierships, which we won't talk about today. So Tom currently works on his dad's farm at Watolta and runs his own electrical business. And yourself and Tom have 2 kids?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
And you also teach online for the Central Queensland University?
Yep.
Yeah. Did you want to step us through what you teach online?
Yeah, my background is psychology. Yeah. So I went through and did psychology at UniSA, went on and did my honours, and then did a PhD in sleep, which is kind of random. But
were you passionate about sleep?
No, it was. Well, now I am, but no, I wasn't. It was one of those things where we got allocated a supervisor in honours, and that program didn't get up, that particular project. And then I was able to do it for my PhD, but it was sleep education, school-based sleep education, which I always thought I was going to be a teacher. So somewhere it's aligned, and then once you do your PhD, you're able to go in and become a lecturer and things like that. So now I lecture in psychology for Central Queensland University and continue with my sleep research. So
how cool. Yeah. Amazing. And today's podcast, we chat about Gabby's miraculous effort to complete the Point to Pinnacle, labelled as the world's toughest half marathon in memory of her friend Sinead, who passed away from brain cancer in 2023. In one of Gabby's last visits to Sinead, she made her promise that she'd complete the Point to Pinnacle in 2025. And true to her word, she was, which we will discuss today. Welcome in, Gabby. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Now, I have been reflecting. I first met you many years ago at a girls' day organised by Brooke Fuss in 2015.
Yes.
Even managed to dig up a picture from that day. Brooke excelled with her party planning that day. We were meant to all be picked up on a bus, and Hummer arrived and just set the tone for the day. So when I met Gabby back then, I definitely did not think your road or path was going to lead to Moonta.
No, me neither.
You were very much a city girl from memory.
Such a city girl, yeah. And moved from Adelaide over to Canada for my postdoc for a couple of years, and was in the heart of the city there in an apartment. When I came back, I was in the heart of the city in an apartment, and then, I've ended up in Moonta. And if you ask my family, because Mum came from a farming family over in Streaky Bay, so I was aware of all of that. And my beautiful grandpa, who is still alive, 101 years old, and if you asked him, he would be like, you were the last person I thought would end up. And in a weird twist, his mum came from Moonta. So it's kind of like a full circle. Yeah.
It's like synchronicity, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's amazing. And tell us how you found the move from the city to Moonta in 2020, mid-COVID.
Yeah.
It must have been great timing.
No, and I mean, it was tricky. There was lots of things at play. 2020 was a big year for everyone, but particularly for our little family. We found out we were pregnant in March, and then COVID hit. And Tom was working in the mines, so I was still in the city at that point. We were pregnant, he was off and on. Then from there, we decided it made the most sense for me to give up my apartment in the city. Tom came back from the mines and we moved to Moonta. But I was reflecting about this because I was like, why did I find it so hard? And it wasn't the move, it was definitely just that entire identity shift. And at that time, I don't think I thought I was moving there for good. I thought it just makes the most sense. I'm going to take a year off for maternity leave because Tom wasn't on the farm at that point. So I thought at some point we'd come back to Adelaide. So the move wasn't the hard part. I think it was just my entire change in identity from the moment I fell pregnant, really.
Yeah.
Work had just been my life up until then. And then also being in the city, being really social. So yeah, everything kind of shifted from that point, and then the move. And Tom and I hadn't lived together. So there was just a lot of big changes from there.
Yeah. On every single level.
Yeah.
Especially because you've been so career driven.
Yeah. So it was more that than the move to Moonta that was tricky. And because I'd been so lucky, like Brooke Fuss being from that, like I'd met people all along the way, so I didn't feel...
You knew so many Moonta people.
Yeah, I was super lucky. I mean, I attribute a lot in my life to Matt and Brooke. I tell my kids all the time, you guys wouldn't be here if it wasn't for these guys. And we always kind of had this random dream manifesting, right? That at some point we'd all just raise a family together in Moonta, and here we are.
That is so fun.
Doing that. So yeah.
And is that how the great romance started with Tom, through Brooke and Matt? Or how did it...
Yeah, we met 12 years ago, or 12 or 13 years ago, New Year's, and I'd been at the uni trying to write up my PhD. I was kind of finishing that off on New Year's Eve. Didn't have any plans, had spoken to Brooke, and anyone who knows Fussy, he's kind of always got a cricket ticket available, and so they were going to the Big Bash that night, and so I was like, yeah, cool, I'll come there. So I just went from there to Brooke and Fussy's, and I remember we were walking from, like, I met people, I was like, hey, how you going, you know, whatever, and then we were walking to the Oval, and Brooke was like, you should talk to Wilbur, he wants to go to South America, and I'd just come back from a South America trip. And I remember he was just really hard to talk to about it. Like, he wasn't really asking questions. I was just like, yeah, okay, good chat, mate. And as the night went on, I guess more drinks flowed, and it was his birthday. And I didn't believe him. I thought he was just asking me to buy a drink for his birthday just to get that. But yeah, from there, Tom and I kind of saw each other for a couple of months.
Yeah.
And then we were all organised to have a catch-up one afternoon, Sunday afternoon, and he just ghosted me. I just never heard from him again. I didn't follow up either, to be fair. Like, we had plans, but I was like, I haven't heard from him. Obviously, he's not keen. But like, it was going somewhere, and then it just stopped. Yeah. So it was a very clear ghosting. In fact, Sinead and her husband Brendan always referred to him as Casper. In a very...
Did that name stick?
Yeah, it stuck. It stuck for them anyway. He was just Casper. So he was the one who ghosted. But a big believer in everything happens for a reason and timing in life, because from there I went on, finished the PhD and got the postdoc, which meant I moved to Canada, had the 2 best years of my life, and then came back. And had that not have happened, you know, who knows if he hadn't ghosted, whether I probably wouldn't have stuck around for him, but who knows what would have happened. And then we reconnected at Brooke and Fussy's wedding. And yeah, we just kind of hit it off from there. But I met a lot of people that night, like similar to yourself, that I had no idea would then become such an integral part of my life. Like Tom's sister, Elise. I remember meeting her when Tom and I had gotten together years later, and she was just like, no, I don't remember meeting you. And then years later, she sent me photos from that night. I was like, I told you we were there.
It's all about timing, isn't it? And people being in the right place.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that story.
Yeah. It's a happy ending, but he was like, don't tell people, just say we went our separate ways. And I was like, no, you ghosted me, mate. Everyone should know.
Sorry, Tom, we will be keeping that in the podcast.
But yeah, it's crazy to look back at that night and think that was such a big night for people that now are such an important part of my life.
I don't know, I can't even explain why I remember so clearly, but in 2015 I can remember speaking to you and you told me you were studying psychology, and I'm like, it wasn't until I was preparing this podcast, I'm like, how do I remember that conversation? Because we had so many, like, there's so many conversations, but it's one that just stood out in my mind, and it's ironic we're now here.
Yeah,
today,
and we sat next to each other for lunch.
I
vividly remember that.
Yeah, me too.
So cool.
It's funny. And what is it you love about Moonta life now?
Yeah, I love how much of a community it is. I love that I'm raising my family with people that have been a part of Tom's life for such a long time as well, and mine, and you know, being there with Matt and Brooke, that they got there in the end as well. But yeah, I've really seen the benefits of that small town community, and going from being such a city girl to then having that, it's really special. I also love that it's only 2 hours from Adelaide.
Oh, I love that about it too. My whole life thrives on that principle that it's only two hours away.
Seriously, because yeah, like Streaky Bay, 7.5 hours, too far. I don't know if that would work, but 2 hours means that we can kind of have the best of both worlds, and I can maintain my work and friendship groups and things like that here. But yeah, I do. I love raising a family in Moonta.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And how did becoming a mum influence your life, especially given maybe that wasn't in your eyesight when that happened?
Yeah. It was big. I mean, and I think when you go to get pregnant, or like when we were planning that, it was more about falling pregnant and then having a baby. I don't think I thought about the the growing up and being responsible for that child and all of those things. And if I look back now, I mean, obviously Tom and I had connected years before and then reconnected, but we were only really together for just over a year before we did get pregnant. And I look back now and go, that was really quick, but in a good way. But I guess it was just, we hadn't even lived together. There was so much that I can understand my mum was probably panicking a little bit in the background. But yeah.
Was she nervous about you moving to Moonta?
Yeah, it's really funny. She was worried about me reconnecting with Tom at Brooke and Fuss's wedding. She loved Tom. Like, let me just say, she didn't know him and she was worried about that. But I think she was worried about me falling for him and then moving to the country and what that would mean for me, given that I was so not going to be that person. So yeah, that was really interesting.
That's so interesting. And tell us about how you manage a successful career with the university and doing that from Moonta.
Yeah, we're really lucky that it is Central Queensland University, because originally the people that I'm working with were at UniSA. They were the people that I did my PhD with and things like that, and they got bought out by Central Queensland University. And then I went over to Canada. I was doing a postdoc. I had a 3-year postdoc, but it got cut off early because I was offered the position. You don't say no to an ongoing academic position. But it was then with Central Queensland University, and obviously with COVID happening, it meant that more people were working from home, which allowed me to then move to Moonta, and they're really supportive. They have study hubs like that CQ University supports in the region, so now I kind of have a role within that as well, which I think aligns nicely and allows me to be home as much as what I am. But Tom and I have found a nice kind of balance now where I come to Adelaide once a week. It's hard leaving the kids. The kids just kind of get used to it, but I always say to them,
because you stay overnight, don't you?
Yeah, but I always say to them that we don't go a day without seeing each other. Like I'll see them Wednesday morning and then I'm back there Thursday. And yeah, I think it takes a lot of work. I mean, as with anyone who are 2 working parents, but I think Tom and I are a good team in that regard. In his busy times on the farm, I cut back with work and I take time off as needed. And on the other times, it's really him who does that when I'm traveling for work and things like that. So I think we're both really lucky that we have the flexibility in our jobs, that we're not required to be somewhere immediately from 9 to 5, and we're able to kind of balance that.
And I think I cut you off earlier before, but when it actually became time to become a mum, how have you found that shift within you?
Yeah, I think it's been hard. So my mum was a stay-at-home mum, and I reflect on this a lot because I have guilt then working, especially when I'm away. And I don't think I'm not like my mum. My mum was born to be a stay-at-home mum, whereas I think I would want the balance of both. But I do have a lot of guilt around it just because of the upbringing that I had and trying to work that. But yeah, I love being a mum. It's changed me in ways that I didn't know would happen. And I think, I know we're going to touch on it, but now with my parents not there, I've reflected a lot on my upbringing and what that looked like and what I want to do for my kids. And it just shifts everything. And I don't think I nailed maternity leave with Louis. Like, mum was up a lot at that time and I was out in the office kind of finishing things off while he was sleeping and things like that. But with Lottie, mum had passed away just before she was born, and I think I really embraced maternity leave, and I've shifted in that perspective, and I really credit the kids for that, to just go, it's not like, that's not the meaning of life. I like my job, but it's not everything, and I want to be there for the kids. And I think that's where that guilt comes in, is because I can feel when I'm stressed at work, I give them a little bit less, but ultimately, they're the priority. They're the reason I do work, and I tell them that all the time. And I know that one day they'll understand, and hopefully understand with me being away is because I supported Dad on the farm, in the sense that we can't move the land. And my job, there isn't a university in Moonta, so we're doing the best that we can with the roles that we have.
I think you're doing a great job of balancing the two. And I didn't realise until we had that pre-chat that both Mum and Dad have passed away. That must be incredibly tough on your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Dad passed away when I was 13, right at the start of year 8. Highly formative years. And I think in many ways that just became a part of my identity. I haven't known any different. It was 24 years the other day, which is kind of hard to believe. And I think the saddest part that I feel about that is that I didn't know him as an adult. Having the relationship that I got to have with my mum and the relationship I have with Tom's parents, that's probably the thing. But he was such a great dad. He was such a dag, and funny, and he was so loving. He was a tickle monster. I have such really fond memories of our childhood and his support. He never missed a netball game, and all of that. So I'm really grateful for the upbringing that I had. But yeah, it changed everything. But from there, I have an older sister, and we kind of became the Rigney girls. And we tackled life together, and we made the most of experiences, and it really bonded us. So while, like I say, my biggest regret is not being able to know Dad as an adult, I think it formed our relationship, and that was tough for Mum. She was trying to raise two teenage girls, and we were lucky Dad was an accountant, so he was very good with money, and we could stay at the school that we were at, and Mum could stay as a stay-at-home mum. So stability was still there, and it was also interesting in the perspective of, like, Mum's dad is still alive, which we are forever grateful for. My kids love Grandpa Jim. I love my grandpa so much. But she never lost her dad. Yeah. And I hope I never lose Tom. But I think that was, like, as we grew up and as we went on that grief journey, it was really eye-opening in that you can be grieving the same person and not have the understanding. I think my sister and I were more aligned with that, whereas that was kind of hard with Mum, just for us to fully understand what each other had been going through.
And Mum passed away while you're pregnant with Lottie too. That must have been a real tricky point.
Yeah, that was probably the hardest time in my life upon reflection. We had to stop to give me a tissue.
I'm happy to own that.
You're like, why is there a tissue? I'm a crier. So I'll probably cry again in this one, but we'll try and just keep pushing through. In hindsight, that was probably the hardest part of my life, probably knowing that during that time too. But I made the joke before, but it was during harvest, which was really inconsiderate of her and hard because, I had to be in Adelaide, and then Louis, still had family daycare, and Tom could kind of manage that, but a lot on Tom during that time as well. But I was also 7 months pregnant. Louis had just gone too. And then when she passed, it was, coming back and not really having that space to grieve, which in many ways was maybe a good thing. Busy going into Christmas, having Louis, but it was hard.
Did that grief, given there wasn't the space to process it, did it catch you up later down the track, or was it injuries or illnesses, or did it just catch you in any way?
I feel like then Sinead happened. So it was something else, like it was just running on momentum. We had a rough couple of years there from 2022. Yeah. And I know we're going to touch on it, but like the running and finding that space for me again, I think is where I've been able to find that grief and a way to process it. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I cried all the time. Like it wasn't like I was just soldiering on. And in those dark days as well, I think, I had so much support. Not being in Adelaide wasn't an issue. Like, I mean, it just shows how much your community grows as well from that time. But I had people dropping off food. I had people checking in on me. Yeah. The family support that we have, which is what I'm forever grateful for being in Moonta, having Tom's parents around the corner. And I remember saying to him, I feel like an orphan now, like technically. And he's like, no, you have our family. And exactly. I absolutely feel that from his family. And I'm very grateful for that. And that came through during that time. So while it was hard, it was just more when, like you said, when you say it all, I'm 7 months pregnant, I have a 2-year-old, Mum's died, it's harvest, the longest harvest that I'd been involved in going into January. So like all of that was hard in hindsight, but we got through. Yeah. Yeah.
And tell us about Sinead and tell us about your friendship.
Yeah, Nate and I met, I was on like 3 months touring the world and my friend had left, and so I did a solo Kentucky trip in America, and she was the first person I spoke to on the LA to Vegas trip, and we just kind of hit it off from there. She was always so kind and so friendly and so welcoming. And, that last night, we spent the last night together in Vegas, and instead of like going out on the strip, we just got ice cream and stayed in the nice hotel room her and her boyfriend had and just talked. And that was kind of the catalyst of our friendship. It was just, she was my favourite person to do nothing with. Yeah.
And how would you describe her as a person? We've got kind and friendly.
Yeah, and sunshine. She was just so bright and special. She was really special, and she was so family oriented. I remember, because she lived in Melbourne, so all of our friendship had to be on trips. Often she'd come to Adelaide Oval. She was a big Port fan, so we spent a lot of time on the hill there and at each other's house. Like while I was still living at home, she was living at home, so we've kind of became each other's family in that sense. And she was so family oriented, and me coming from a predominantly girl household, especially after Dad passed, I was always in awe of how close she was with her brother and how much she loved Christian, her brother, and how much of a tight family unit they were. And then she went on to meet Bren, and they had Ralph the dog, who was honestly like their son. He's
What
son
kind of
number
dog
one.
was it?
He's still around. He's a Labrador, brown
cute.
Labrador, chocolate lab. So he's just beautiful. But like just her motherly instinct took over there, and then she had beautiful Co, who I hope gets to watch this one day and can hear just how amazing his mum was, and we'll constantly tell him, and he knows. But yeah, she was a beautiful mum and did so much for him. But yeah, Sinead was just special. She was a teacher and on leadership track. Because she cared. It wasn't, yes, she was very organised. There were presents that would rock up at my door 2 days and I'd always forget her birthday and everything. So organised. But no, she cared and she advocated for people who couldn't advocate for themselves. Yeah. She was a strong feminist and she loved her people and she loved them hard and gave so much to her friends and family and something I strive to do for sure from how she was.
And what was Sinead diagnosed with and what were the warning signs, symptoms? Were there things that doctors overlooked?
Yeah, so she started having some symptoms mid-2023 and it was, originally I think she took pregnancy tests, some nausea, some dizziness and things like that. But then she also had a hand tremor and migraines, and I think she saw a lot of specialists. I think she saw an ENT, multiple GPs, physio before the family GP sent her for an MRI. And the afternoon, she had the MRI in the morning, and by that afternoon she was at the Alfred Hospital in Melbourne. Yeah. They'd found a mass in her brain, and after 2 brain surgeries they had identified that was stage 4 glioblastoma. So life changed from there.
And tell us about that last conversation with Sinead where you promised to do the Point to Pinnacle.
Yeah, I was really lucky, and I want to take the time to acknowledge my family for letting me pick up and go to Melbourne as often as I did in that time. And it takes a lot for Tom. It was 15 months that Sinead was sick, and in that time I made quite a few trips over. But also Sinead's family and friends, and I lived in the house with them, and I got that time with her to sit and have the chats. And I think having gone through stuff with Mum and obviously Dad, we were able to have some of those conversations that I hope was helpful to her. And I was thinking of what I wish I'd had from my dad to think about what she could do for Koa and for people. But I really want to, it was a vulnerable time, and they really welcomed me as part of the family. And I know I am part of their family, but I just really wanted to take the time to acknowledge what that was for me to be there to have those conversations.
And your grief experiences with what you went through with Mum and Dad helped shape you to be the person to have those conversations with her as well?
Yeah.
It's almost like you're divinely sent to each other at that point.
Yeah, and I definitely felt that at times. And, I think I felt okay with having those conversations. I felt like it was important and thinking about, like, what does she want? Yeah. Because if, it obviously wasn't going to, it was terminal. So if I could do things, I just wanted to be helpful, and not being there all the time. When I was there, I wanted to be productive. And yeah, she was such a great communicator, and little gifts that she gave the people that she was really close to was a mug with a card that just said, chat to me. And I still, will use that mug and have chats to her, because she was just such a good communicator.
So you have conversations with her?
Yeah. When
Did you just feel how she would respond, or how does
I can hear her. I can hear her voice in things, and I think one of the special things about our friendship, we weren't the friends who spoke every day at all. We were the ones who we'd plan a holiday and we'd spend that time together, and we would sit on the couch and just catch up on everything. So, it's not an everyday thing, but when I think about things, and we still, we were overseeing Brendan and Koa over Christmas just after that. So like we still speak to them all the time, and I can hear her voice, and I love it because I speak to her mum all the time. We send voice messages, and her mum says things in the same way that Sinead says things. And those moments, like I just hear it, and I just, it's special. Yeah.
And tell us about that final conversation with Sinead.
That was the question.
No, don't stress.
So we were there, and I was there with Brendan and Christian, her brother, and we were talking. She was doing the walk for brain cancer, so she'd been raising funds for that. Her team name was Roland with Sinead, because at that point she was in a wheelchair, but she was
what was the team?
Roland with Sinead, because it was the walk for brain cancer, but she was going to be Roland. And unfortunately she didn't make it to the walk, but we all did that, and they were the top fundraisers for Melbourne, which was amazing. But we were trying to kind of brainstorm ways that we could continue to get the word out there and raise some funds in her name. And we were just talking about Point to Pinnacle because Carrie Bickmore for Carrie's Beanies for Brain Cancer had done that over the last couple of years. That's kind of their annual fundraiser. And we were talking about what that would look like. And Christian was like, maybe we do it this year. It was probably September, and I was like, I don't think so. I would not be able to do that. I was looking up a training plan. I was like, no, not this year. And I just said, look, I promise you I'll do this next year. And she laughed because she knew that none of us were in any sort of shape to run up a mountain. And the boys ended up doing the shitbox rally, which was only like a few weeks before. But I stayed true and signed up for Point to Pinnacle. I think she passed away on the 4th of October, and I started running November 2, and I had beautiful friends and family who just jumped in and signed up, and we're going to do Point to Pinnacle with me that helped train with me as well.
Amazing. And is it true that you weren't even into running prior to this experience?
Never. Even when I played netball, you know, I made myself sound like an athlete before. I was like, Dad never missed a netball game. It was like, no, I played goal shooter. Like, I never ran. And Louis had sports day and he was doing all this running, and I was like, no, I did everything to get out of sports day activities. Like, I was the girl who had to like help lift the high jump bar up. Like, I didn't participate. So me doing this was a big deal. And I remember I bought a treadmill because, you know, Point to Pinnacle's up a mountain and there's no hills in Moonta.
Well, tell us what Point to Pinnacle is, because I had to Google. I actually wasn't sure, and then I Googled it. I'm like, this is really impressive. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so it's running essentially from Rest Point Casino in Hobart up to the top of Mount Wellington, which is an elevation gain of about 1,270 metres. And some of the gradients are like 10%. We drove up it the day before, and Tom was like, is this really what you want to be doing? Like, do you want to know? But it helped me to know. But yeah, it's
You're
just
pleased you did the pre-drive?
Yes. Yeah. So, but yeah, that was good. So it is. It's just running up a mountain, essentially, which... Yeah, and I think the other part that makes it kind of tricky is the weather conditions change. So down the bottom, it's warmer. Up the top, I think when we made it up there, I mean, the week before it was snowing, and when we drove up there, we could see the snow under some of the bushes and things the day before. And when we got up there, I'm glad we drove up before though, because we could see the views. The day that we ran up, it was completely foggy and you couldn't see a thing. But I think it was 0 by the time we got up to the top. So I think that's the other thing that makes it hard. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is extreme. So tell us, what preparation did you do to prepare for this?
Yeah, well, like I said, I started my first run that November after Nate had passed, and it wasn't a run. I can't call that a run. It wasn't pretty. And it was really tricky because I think as adults, we form into our comfort zone, especially like even with me at work. It's just university. I now teach it, but I'm still within that same space. And for me to have to go in and do something that I really wasn't good at or comfortable with, it took a lot of me telling myself it's okay and you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So, and I felt comfortable then that I could make that distance.
Yeah.
And then I had to turn to training to uphill.
Yeah.
And as I said, I bought a treadmill, but every time I was in Adelaide, I'd try and get up Lofty to try and increase that, or run up hills with my friends. I had...
How many times did you do Lofty?
A few, not as many as I wanted to. I ended up being injured.
Oh.
I just had some IT band issues, which meant that I couldn't train as much as I wanted. Oh. And I was seeing Nick Rendell at the physio there weekly, but he did it the year before. So he kind of inadvertently became my hype guy and helped me not only prepare physically, but also psychologically for what was to come, awesome. Which was really helpful. Yeah.
That's another amazing coincidence, synchronicity on the journey as well. Someone that had done the run.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Preparation.
Yeah, really helpful.
And tell us about the day. How did you feel during the event?
It was good. So the whole weekend was awesome, and Brooke and I flew over with my friends Chanel and Gio, who were doing it with us as well, and then Elise and Paul came in the next day, and Tom surprised me because it's in November, which is harvest. And so he was frustrated the whole time. He's like, you're training for this event and I can't go. Like, it's the worst time ever. But, you know, weather and a few things aligned, and he booked flights last minute and surprised me. Awesome. Showed up with the help of Brooke, and so he was there. So
where did he surprise you when you were over there?
In Hobart, yeah. It was funny because I called him in the morning, and the kids were with Trina and Blue anyway, with Elise's kids. They had all 4. They're very good to us. Whenever, because Elise and Paul and Tom and I are like best friends as well. We're not just family. And they jump on board and we go away together, and we're just like, train, here you go. Like, here's all 4. So I knew he didn't have the kids, but I called him, and there was this weird noise in the background. I was like, what are you doing? Like, the header had broken down, but it sounded like he was in a tractor. it was all just kind of weird. And he got off the phone and I was like, oh, whatever. I was half asleep. And then, he showed up in Hobart. But he later told me that he was on the plane. That's what that noise was in the background. And the guy next to him looked at him like, you're not in a tractor. Because that's what he said he was doing. He's like, it's okay, I'm going to surprise her. Like, I'm not cheating. So he surprised me. So the whole weekend was really good, which I think was important because it was such a build up and I didn't know how I would feel. But the whole weekend was really, it was fun. And then on the day, Elise and Paul had a hotel right across the road. So we kind of hung out there. We were meant to get into the team photo for Carrie's Beanies for Brain Cancer, but we couldn't find it. So it was all a bit of a rush in the morning. But it was a really good day and we just all ran up the mountain.
Amazing. And could you send Sinead with you that day?
Yeah, I mean, I had a playlist that was with all of our favourite songs and things like that, and I rely heavily on that music connection. But I send Sinead every time I run. I think just because it's what I've done to honour her.
Absolutely.
And definitely there were some key songs in moments as I was wanting to stop that would come on that I'd be like, okay, she's put that on now. And she actually loved Running Up That Hill, the Placebo version, that song.
I love that song too.
Yeah. So when, it was kind of funny. I was like, that's why I'm doing it for. She likes this song. I've always remembered that. Yeah.
And can you talk us about the way the race and this experience has changed your life?
Yeah, massively. Like I said, I wasn't a runner, I wasn't an athlete, I didn't do anything, and it's completely changed my life and my health behaviour habits. Even now that's finished, I'm still running, and when you run, obviously you need to sleep more, and you're waking up early, so I drank less, even just socially, I didn't want to do that, and now I'm really focusing on eating behaviours and trying to make sure Tom would call me a lazy eater. I don't like to cook, so I would just get up and eat chocolate for breakfast and, whatever, chips for lunch, like just whatever. So now I'm actually looking at that. So in so many ways, I think it's helped me be the healthiest I've ever been. And it was super cute when I was training. Lottie last year would only want to wear in winter running pants, which is just black leggings. But she called them running pants because I was that. And it was never going to be me. Like you said in your intro, Tom's more the athlete. I was never going to be that role model for my kids. And I am now. And they just know I'm never there in the morning. So shout out to Tom for always getting breakfast and supporting me with that. But they just know Mum's gone for a run or Mum's at Pilates. And I love that I can show those healthy habits for my kids now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And if people want to donate in support of Sinead and the story, what is the best way? Is it Carrie's Brains for Cancer?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like most of the people who might be listening to this have probably already donated. I was blown away with the generosity and again, that community from Moonta as to what people were willing to give. And it wasn't even about the money. It was also like the messages along the way, the messages as I was running up the mountain, that your earpods play to you were just from people and like just people you'd run into at the street that would know that you were training. So much support. But yeah, if anyone does want to think about donating, I mean, there's so many, cost of living's hard and people all have their own causes. And I think, yeah, brain cancer for me, it's what I've learned is that there is no improvements really in that survival rate since over the last 30 years and the treatments there. And Sinead was all about control what you can control. And so part of raising that money that I was able to raise was about, trying to bring that in. That's something that we can control, is giving some money towards that. And I think Carrie Bickmore does an amazing job of that. So if people were wanting to donate, then that would definitely be the place that I would recommend to go. Yeah.
And I love that you transformed grief into purpose. Did this journey help you processing your grief, or what would you describe it as?
Yeah, and I think even just circling back to my full identity shift from 2020, and definitely when Mum passed, a lot of things that I just didn't focus on. I think, becoming a mum, you focus more on the kids, and I was trying to get back to work, and then I was pregnant again, and then Mum died, and then I had Lottie. So I felt like that whole period wasn't about me. Yeah. And running gives me time to have that time to process and think about grief and like I say, channel my energy into something more healthy
Yeah,
than anything else. And I know there's a lot of mums that have probably taken up running for good reason, because it does give you, it seems crazy, like who wants to go and run for 2 hours on a weekend just to get time for themselves? But it really does help. And I think because it's all been for Sinead, it has given me that chance. And there was another friend of Sinead's that ran Point to Pinnacle who very much felt the same, and felt like that was a good way for her to channel her grief as well. So yeah, it really has.
How many were in your crew that went up together?
I didn't run with that friend. I didn't see her at all. She made the team photo that we missed. But I had Brooke who came over with me, my beautiful friend who I met at uni, Chanel, and her husband, Gio, and then Elise and Paul.
Yeah.
And honestly, they changed that whole weekend for me, and we just had the best time. And their support, instead of getting up there and feeling really overwhelmingly sad or kind of empty because what I'd been striving for, it was just such a celebration. And to be able to share that, and I just felt so loved. And I think Sinead would have loved that, because like I said, she loved her people hard, and those people, and I didn't even really ask them. I think they resented me a lot at times for when they were running up the hill. Chanel definitely. But yeah, for getting up there. But it was just so special. I ran up and hit that finish line, and Gio was there, and he just gave me the biggest hug. And then Elise and Paul were there, and then we met the others, and it was having that crew and having those people, it was just really special.
And what would you like listeners to most take away from today?
I think 2 things. The first one being, if you have a goal, like, you honestly can do anything you set your mind to. And in my research, we look at sleep behavior and like the sleep behavior change and behavior change in general. And I know how hard it can be, and I often see that. And I wasn't the best, I wrote my PhD at 3 a.m. writing about how important sleep is. But you can make those changes, and you can sit in that discomfort. And if you can push past those early days where it is just like you have to start somewhere, you can really make those changes, and it's never too late to do that. And honestly, if I can run up a mountain from where I started, anyone can do anything. And then I think the second key thing is just not to wait. You never know how much time we have, and I think we get so caught up in the day-to-day, and we have to work, and we have to get the kids to school and do all of those things. But I know, my mum and dad wanted to travel together, and they didn't get that opportunity. And I know Sinead was, when she first got diagnosed, was like, I guess I'm not going to Europe. And it's not about the big holidays. I guess they're my 2 examples, but it's just more with anything. And I think really focusing on the time that you have with people is the most important. And I think that would be the biggest thing that I try and carry with life, with the loss that I've had, is it's that time, and you can't get that back, and you just don't know what's around the corner.
And after speaking with you in our pre-chat, something that stood out to me too is just being grateful that we are here and that we can go through these experiences as well. That really stuck out to me when I was talking to you in the pre-chat. I'm like, we just take for granted all these things that we can do, or the fact that we're here, or that we can move our bodies, and just being more grateful for that.
Yeah, and when I want to stop when I'm running, that's what I think. It's like, you can, so you should. Like, you can keep going. Like, do it. Yeah, and that's been a whole new perspective that I think I've had. And I had that with mum and dad, but I think seeing it with Sinead, and especially, like, she was just the most amazing mum, and everything she did was for Koa. And I just think, which again, I guess circles back to the grief, well, not the grief, the guilt that I have for working sometimes, because it's that time with the kids. That's all she wanted. She maximized as much time as she could at home with him in those times. And I think, the time that you have with the people that you love is the most important thing in life.
Well, speaking of Brooke, she was kind enough to do a little something for me that I wanted to play for you. If you weren't crying before, you might be crying even more after this. She's done a great job of this.
Hey Em, hey Gab. I am so excited that you two have got together to do this podcast episode. I'm really glad that Gab has the opportunity to share a bit more about her story, and I think this is just the best place to share it, so I can't wait to hear it. Em, you asked me what I admire about Gab, and there are so many things, because Gab just means the world to me. She has been one of my closest friends for 15 years, and we've done so much of life together. We've somehow ended up back in a country town in Moonta raising our kids together, and that I am really grateful every day that our lives intertwine the way that they did. It's something I think about often, and it's really special to me. Gab is as most people who have met her know, she is someone who shows up for her friends just over and over again. She is the most thoughtful friend. She is so smart and so determined, but she's really humble and modest about it. You won't really ever hear her talk about her years of research or, you know, her job and her career. She keeps that on the down low. And in the same way that she supports people around her, you know, she doesn't do it for recognition. It's really just who she is. And although Gab may not agree with me, I think she's just one of the strongest people I know. To see Gab be able to support Sinead and Sinead's family during that time, and for what she was able to hold, and then also come home and be the most present and invested mum and a great friend and a great partner, that is something that just stays with me to this day. Like, I'm just so proud of her, and to me, I just have so much appreciation for her strength during that time. So understandably, I was absolutely honoured to be able to do the Point to Pinnacle climb with her. That felt like a really small way that I could show my support to Gab and also pay my respect to Sinead as well. In terms of training for the Point to Pinnacle, this massive uphill climb up Mount Wellington, I think we did train pretty hard. Like, there were really no days off, but mainly because we were just absolutely terrified about how hard it was going to be. We definitely psyched ourselves out, I think, about how brutal the climb was going to be. But poor Gab, she had injuries through most of her training, and she just pushed through. Like, she's really tough. She would finish off a run and be limping, pretty much unable to move one leg, and just a few days later be back at it. Like, she was determined to get this training done. The long runs were definitely the most enjoyable bit. I think there's something about getting on the road, like foot to pavement, and getting a bit of that breath and body connection, and having the space, which a lot of us don't have in our day-to-days, having the space to kind of process whatever's going on. I think we both found that really, really helpful. The hill runs, that part of the training was an absolute slog. Nobody likes hill runs, but Gab would always be the first one when the run was getting tough and when training was getting tough. Gab would always be the first one to say, you know, how lucky we were to be able to do it, how lucky we were to be able to move our body and to be able to run. I think having that perspective and being able to pull yourself up was a really important part of this whole journey. The race day itself was an experience. It definitely was an endurance event, but arriving on the day, we were all pretty nervous, and there were so many people there just running to support the cause and to support brain cancer research. It just had a real community feel. Like, if someone had slowed down during the race and they were on the side of the road, you know, another runner would come and check on them. And then likewise, if someone powered through the crowd because they got a burst of energy, people would be like puffing and panting, but still kind of cheering them on. It was a real community feel, like everyone was doing it together. And Gab had a great crew running with her: Elise, Paul, Chanel, Gio, just a great group of friends who all wanted to support Gab in any way that they could. Honestly, Gab just absolutely steamed up that hill. Like, she left us all in her dust. When Gab says she's going to do something, she just absolutely does it. She would not have stopped once. And she was just running on pure determination to, I think, do Sinead proud, but also to really do everyone that had donated, to do them proud as well. I know that was really important to Gab, and she was incredibly grateful for all of the support in all the different ways that it came. And Gab, I am just in awe of you every day, of what you've been able to hold, and to still be someone who inspires me every day. I'm so grateful. Love you.
She's too good.
She did a good job of that.
Far too kind. Far too generous. Yeah. That's beautiful.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Gabby. This was an inspiring listen, inspiring chat. And what I loved hearing most is the message about us, that we spoke about being grateful for our health and being here each day and living it to the most. So you're an exceptional human being. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for the platform to be able to share Sinead's story and talk a bit more about me, and thank the people who really helped me get through probably the last 5 years. And that's a huge credit to the Moonta community. But yeah, I really appreciate the platform. So thank you.